Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
The medical marijuana. The medical marijuana. Radio show. The medical marijuana for you and me. Ah, yeah, the medical marijuana. Whoa, 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 yeah, the medical. It's the medical marijuana show. You will know.
I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Hey, boy, don't feel my world untrue. Yeah, I want to talk to you. My world can be true if you do what I tell you to. I want to talk to you.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to Medical Marijuana Radio. This edition is for Saturday, the 2nd of January, 2016. I'm your host, Larry Love. We're here every week to bring you the latest information on medical cannabis from all over the globe and recreational cannabis where it is legal and where it needs to be legal. Today, we have a pretty important interview with Ben Barreras and Jonathan Sanchez. These are two people in the cannabis community here in New Mexico. The Department of Health initiated a rule about a year ago to cap out concentrates to 70%, dumbing it down. They're afraid that we're going to get too high when we're trying to fix our medical ills or when we're trying to kill cancer cells. So they arbitrarily have cut the percentage of THC to 70%. It's not working. It's not going to help people cure cancer with the RSO treatment, Rick Simpson oil. So this Wednesday at the Department of Health here in New Mexico, there's a meeting in the morning, and everybody needs to come down there. We'll talk more about that in the second half of the show. But first up, I've got news for you.
I've got news for you.
Yes, I've got news for you. There's a couple stories. A good one I'm just going to paraphrase comes from New York, where there was a DUI case where a driver admitted that she had used cannabis, and they arrested her and tried her, but they found that there was no real test for impairment. Even though she admitted it, they found her not guilty, and so that was sort of a precedent-setting case. There needs to be some kind of impairment line to where you're impaired from cannabis. I've told this story before. I took a capsule and smoked a few joints about 12 hours before having my blood tested, and they're calling impairment 5 nanograms per milliliter of blood, and I tested at 499, which is 100 times. I was not impaired, so there needs to be a definition of impairment. We'll be on top of this story. It's going to be something that really needs to get done in order to protect medical patients and rec people from getting pulled over. There's even some studies that say that cannabis actually makes you drive better, so we'll have to see how that works out. This next one is from livescience.com. It's just sort of looking back at 2015. Pot Science, the top marijuana findings of 2015. And we're not going to read you this whole article because it's quite long, and we have a great interview to read for you. Number one, more people are using the drug. Marijuana use in the United States more than doubled between 2001 and 2013, according to research reported this year by the journal JAMA Psychiatry. Over the 12-year period, the estimated number of U.S. adults who had used marijuana in the previous 12 months grew from 4.1% in 2001 to 9.5% in 2013. Number 2, new insights into conditions helped by medical marijuana. Researchers at the University of Bristol in the United Kingdom reviewed almost 80 previous studies that involved a total of about 6,500 people. The investigators concluded that medical marijuana may offer some relief for people with cancer-related pain, nerve pain, or muscle spasms caused by multiple sclerosis. Number 3, unforeseen risks of medical marijuana. Take this with a grain of salt because sometimes this stuff comes out from the psychiatry community and they're against us. The majority of edible medical marijuana products that researchers at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore tested in an analysis this year were inaccurately labeled. Only 13 of the 75 tested pot food products, such as baked goods, beverages, and candy, bought from dispensaries in California and Washington state had labels that accurately listed the amount of THC in them, according to the research published in that June Journal of JAMA. Another study found that having more medical marijuana dispensaries in a neighborhood was linked to higher rates of hospitalizations for marijuana abuse and addiction. I don't believe that one at all. I would challenge that. And we can get, some psychiatrist wants to come on here and talk about that. I'm willing to talk to them. Marijuana and the teenage brain. Okay, again, this is from the psychiatry community. Several studies published in the journal JAMA Psychiatry in August offered insights into marijuana's effects on young brains. The findings suggest that a young person's genes and environment and the frequency of drug use could all play a role in the way smoking pot affects young teenagers' brains, but teasing out the actual differences is complicated. And there are some other studies that show that it does not inhibit anyone's IQ. Number 5, additional probing of marijuana effects on the brain. A study done this year on the brains of mice offered a clue about why smoking pot may fuel hunger and bring on the munchies. There's also many studies that say that, which is true. Again, I'm reading a lot of stuff here from the psychiatry community, and they're always against us. But going against what they have to say, cannabis actually causes neurogenesis, which is the rebuilding of brain cells. All that BS, all these years about you're burning your brain cells, you're ruining your brain cells by smoking marijuana. That's all bunk. Number 6, marijuana is not for kids. Well, we know that kids should not be smoking marijuana recreationally, but obviously there's many different afflictions that kids are using, Dravet syndrome and so forth for epilepsy, so marijuana is okay for kids, some of them. Number 7, people are finding new ways to get high. Well, with dabbing and over the last 3 years, more marijuana users have been experimenting with dabbing, which involves inhaling the vapors of butane hash oil. It doesn't have to be butane, by the way. A concentrated form of marijuana, according to a study published this year by researchers at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. We all know that the oil is more potent. People do need to dab in order, for medically anyway, in order to take care of some of their conditions, which a lot of them have to do with chronic pain. Number 8 is pot's unexpected health effects. When people light up a joint or take a few hits from a bong, it's possible they're thinking more about the immediate gratification than the long-term consequences of using the drug. But this year, researchers shed some light on marijuana's potential health risks down the road. Now, we all know that everybody's worried about dabbing. It's a big hot hit, but the bottom line is this, and there was a report I just posted the other day, which is just a reprint. Marijuana actually causes better lung function and lung volume. People that smoke cannabis, smoke it, not just dab it or eat it. It actually causes better lung function and lung volume. How weed affects the waistline and blood sugar. Well, we all know that they're saying now, they're touting cannabis as being the next great drug for diabetes. Okay, so obviously we're going to have to keep our eyes on that. Next up, and let's see what's next here. Science investigates the safety of smoking pot. Marijuana is less dangerous than at least 10 drugs, including drugs that are legal to use, like alcohol and tobacco, that found in a study that was based on data from animal studies and not humans. Alcohol topped the list of the deadliest drugs, considered about 100 times more dangerous than pot. So that's it for that brief little news reports that I'm reading for you. But up next, here in New Mexico, a New Mexico representative files for a marijuana legalization bill for the session that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. Here's this report right here from Santa Fe.
It's back, a bill that would legalize recreational marijuana in New Mexico just in time for the legislative session that begins in January. But does it have a chance this time around? Stuart Dyson has been covering the legislature for the past 20 years. Stu, what do you think?
Danielle, in a word, no, it doesn't have a chance. But backers of the bill will fight every session, every year, hoping to gain momentum and public support every time until legislation becomes inevitable to legalize pot. This time, it may not even clear the launch pad.
Legal weed legislation might not make it to the agenda because other than the budget, it's up to the governor to set the agenda, and the governor opposes legal weed. But wait, maybe legal weed is a budget issue after all. We're talking taxation here, aren't we? Here's the sponsor, Representative Bill McCamley of Las Cruces.
When you look at Colorado on our other border, they've brought in around $100 million in increased tax revenue. So this is a really good way of hurting drug cartels and helping our business community and our schools at the same time.
Last session, the legal weed bill got the kiss of death, assigned to 5 committees in the House of Representatives. In a 30-day session, it's even easier to kill a bill that's unpopular with the Republican majority.
And a lot of people say, well, let's wait and see what Colorado does. Well, how long are we going to wait to see the kind of success that they've had? And it's already there.
Opponents say we don't yet know the full social impact, the effect on student performance and employee productivity, use by teenagers, driving under the influence.
So if you're a fan of legal weed, don't inhale and then forget to exhale while you're waiting for it. It realistically doesn't have a chance until 2019, when a new governor will replace Susana Martinez, and legal marijuana might stand a chance. Back to you.
So I've seen this reporter before. He's really against us and is always smiling as he says it's not going to pass. Governor Martinez, who is a very controversial person, needs to put her personal views aside and realize that our neighbor, Colorado, has been benefiting so much from the taxes from recreational, going to schools. We have the worst school system in the country, worst in education. We're just down at the bottom. We're the worst run state. Governor Martinez even had an article about her before her little binge drinking Christmas party and pizza party. She needs to think about what's best for the state first. It's inevitable. Legalization is going to happen here. It's going to happen everywhere. Why should we let our state continue to go down the drain in education when we can benefit by this? We're losing money every weekend, and every day people are driving to Colorado to consume cannabis, and we need to put personal political bullshit aside and legalize this to help our state and to get people off of alcohol and drugs. Now, that being said, medical marijuana... hang on a second. I just sort of screwed up. I'm going to play this other one first. I have a particular story about how legalization is affecting the medical industry in Colorado. I'll play you right after this piece, which is a medical marijuana dispensary is coming to Albany, and they have gotten the blessing of the kosher community, and they're having kosher cannabis.
Vireo Health, one of the 5 companies licensed to produce and sell medical marijuana, made an announcement today. Their medicine has been certified as kosher. Vireo says the Orthodox Union, the world's largest and most widely recognized kosher certification agency, has given their products their approval, and that their medical cannabis will be the first in the world ever to be considered kosher. Vireo will have 4 dispensaries across the state, including one right here in Albany. Those dispensaries are scheduled to open in January. And patients can now apply to register for the medical marijuana program. To begin the process, patients must contact a physician registered with the Department of Health to take part in the program. If that doctor decides medical marijuana may be the best treatment option for you, they will issue a certification. The patient then applies online, and that registration system was launched just last week. After the application is complete, the patient will get a registry identification card to be used to purchase products from their dispensary. Only some severe, debilitating, or life-threatening conditions qualify for this program. If you needed more information, we have links posted on our website.
So as of the 1st, I believe New York is having their dispensaries open. There is no smoking of any cannabis in New York. It's all, I believe, pills. So we'll have to keep an eye on how this works out in New York, because people need some instant relief with cannabis from their symptoms, and pills aren't going to do that. Smoking it gives you instant relief. Parkinson's patients, MS, again, they're too restrictive over there. All right, going back to the story that I just mentioned, did Colorado legalization help or hurt medical marijuana patients? Now, with legalization, I've said it a million times on this show, we have to make sure that the medical programs stay intact and are there to help people using this product, this medicine, this plant medicinally. Here's this report.
One time. You said, quote, everything changed for medical marijuana when Amendment 64
This is from the Cannabist.
People watching the show, listening to the show, most likely know that Amendment 64 legalized recreational cannabis here in Colorado. But can you elaborate on that? How did things change for medical when suddenly Colorado welcomed and opened the doors to recreational?
Well, things changed on a lot of fronts. Patients have become much more of a commodity and a means to an end. A lot of
means to an end in terms of a plant count.
Right, plant counts. They're now customers, consumers. So there's revenue. And when it comes to revenue, there was this assumption that when Amendment 64 passed, that all these patients that we assumed did not belong on the registry in the first place would just give up their red cards and would bail off and go to the rec stores. And so when that didn't happen, there was a lot of talk about patients were staying on the registry just to avoid taxes, and this was illegal. And that was a big change, where there was much more sympathy, I think, but suddenly it became a lot more about money and whether or not the state or local governments were getting their right tax revenue. And that if patients were staying on the registry and they didn't belong there, then they were criminals. So that attitude change was pretty disconcerting.
And there has been that feeling. I mean, and
we've seen legislation that has tried that has come from that perspective.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've even heard some locals refer to the red card, the medical marijuana card, as the quote locals discount. So there is some of that happening on the medical marijuana side, but because that's happening, then you feel that people are discounting the true patients who are using it for.
Well, and yeah, because then what that does is it disparages the patients that are out there that really need this plant. That I talk to cancer patients that are using this not just for the nausea for chemotherapy, that are in late stage cancer. This is their last hope, and they're using cannabis to try and beat back cancer. you've all heard about our kids with epilepsy that, they've tried all these different drugs and now they're coming to Colorado to try cannabis and the miracles that they've been seeing.
Some of the most amazing
Yeah.
stories. And granted, it's not working for everybody. It's not working for all the kids, but it's working for many of them. And this anecdotal evidence has really built up a pretty amazing case for CBD in treatment and THC in treatment for epilepsy, especially among children.
And then one other thing that we've seen in the patient community with the passage of Amendment 64 is that there is a much brighter spotlight, I think, because of that, not just on recreational, but also on medical. So one of the things that we try to kind of watch out for is watch the regulations that they were applying to recreational through the Amendment 64 process, knowing that eventually some of those would bleed down onto medical. And we have seen that, for example, with the child-resistant packaging or efforts to limit potency, those kinds of things.
Absolutely.
So it's all about the big taxes when it comes to recreational. They're making so much money in Colorado. They're actually giving back to the users. The state's giving back money to the people. They're just raking it in taxes. When you legalize out there, folks, make sure that they're not really screwing you on the taxes, because it's becoming way too much. For recreational, it's very heavily taxed, and of course that'll drive people, back to the gray market, black market, whatever you want to call it. But in Oregon, starting the 4th, which is a Monday, they're going to start taking taxes on recreational marijuana. They have not since they first started selling rec a few months ago, but it starts on Monday. Here's this report from Oregon.
Now we're talking about marijuana. Marijuana buyers looking for a bargain may want to stock up before next week. That's when medical marijuana dispensaries will be required to collect a 25% tax on recreational pot sales, starting January 4th.
It's going to be a nice shock to the system when the people that don't know come in and get that rise in price that they're not expecting.
People with medical marijuana cards won't have to pay the tax, and they'll also be able to buy larger quantities. And when the OLCC-regulated stores begin popping up next year, those sales will only require a 17% tax, plus a possible 3% could be charged by local cities and counties. Other changes coming. By the end of next year, you won't be able to buy recreational pot at a medical marijuana dispensary. There will be separate shops for both purposes.
Now, I like that personally. I think that there should be a boutique medical cannabis dispensaries that just are catering to the medical people, and then let there be other dispensaries for recreation. I'm all for both, but we need to protect the medical. And we need to protect the medical cannabis patients. Here's from Oregon also. Medical marijuana user fights back after losing his job. Okay, if this is a legal medicine, cannabis, in your state, then it's got to be equal to the other medicine. If you're allowed to take Oxycontin at work, then you should be allowed to use your cannabis. Here's this report.
We went, when it comes down to marijuana in our state, the lines are still blurred around regulations and usage. That's why Michael Hirsch is fighting for what he says is a right to be employed. He's been a senior program analyst for more than a decade. Michael Hirsch won his first fight against prostate cancer in 2011. Now he has a daily battle with debilitating side effects from the cancer treatment.
I have ongoing issues with like my digestive system and such, to the point that it required hospitalization from kidney failure.
So doctors prescribed the best prescription they could to help him function.
And the medical cannabis really helps control and helps my digestive system, and is just one example of how it really improves my life.
But the day before Christmas Eve, he was fired from his job with Lane County. Now he's fighting again, this time to get his job back.
Overwhelming, and I'm just kind of a bit dazed by it all. I've been wiped out financially with the medical bills, and so that I face homelessness.
Hirsch says he was never under the influence of marijuana when he worked.
Never, no. That would, to me, that would be like drinking on the job. I mean, I just wouldn't even consider it.
All forms of marijuana are illegal at the federal level, but both medical and recreational marijuana are legal in Oregon. Jim Steiner is stepping up to help now.
Right.
I'm not buying that. Number 2 really does apply.
He's from the Oregon American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees Union.
We think because there's absolutely no nexus between him taking this medicine prescribed by a doctor and what he does for Lane County, that there's no reason that they should fire him.
Steiner says they will take the case as far as it needs to go to get Hirsch back to work.
We think this will be a precedent-setting case, which will, for not just Lane County, but for employers around the state, to take a hard look at their policies and how they deal with prescribed use of medical marijuana.
Until that happens, Hirsch just hopes for one thing.
Hope to get my job reinstated and to be a productive member of society.
Both men hope the case will set a new precedence when it comes to labor cases in Oregon. We reached out to the county. They say they cannot comment on personal matters or medical information. Live in the studio, I'm Megan Shin, News Source 16.
Okay, so before we take a break, I have one more story for you. A woman called the police to report her boyfriend was growing some marijuana.
Didn't know about this small marijuana growing operation until someone gave them a phone call. And who gave them that phone call? Well, nobody other than the grower's girlfriend. These are the plants. They're not the largest ever seized by police, but growing them in Uniontown is still illegal.
They were in
Police
small
said the
Dixie
woman who
cu-
lived at 49 Lawn
solo
Avenue
cups.
gave them a call.
Real simple. It was his girlfriend. They got in an argument, and she called us saying that he had a grow lab in his house, that he was growing marijuana.
Kalensic showed up, and the girlfriend let him inside.
But I also spoke to Mr. Ferguson as well, and he said, yeah, you can come in, that he does have some marijuana plants growing for his own personal use.
He said there were a few small plants upstairs, as well as potting soil baggies in Miracle Grow. Even though the find happened in August, Kalensic said he just filed the charges today. Neither Ferguson nor his girlfriend still live in this house. So girlfriend doesn't call you, you might not know about this.
Right. I'm sure that caused some tension afterwards.
We tried tracking Ferguson down for his side of the story, but we didn't have any luck finding him. He now awaits his preliminary hearing on the charges. In Uniontown, Fayette County, Ashley Hardway, Pittsburgh's Action News 4.
So that's out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I don't know if those two are still together or not. But those little plants were like in little solo cups, and it was really quite ridiculous. So we'll be right back with Ben Barreras and Jonathan Sanchez to talk about the 70% cap on concentrates here in New Mexico. We'll be right back after this.
It's all about the 420 MMJ Radio.
Hey, this is Scott from Rare Dagnus. You're listening to Medical Marijuana Radio.
And we're back. And online, we're going to talk today about the 70% cap rule on concentrates here in New Mexico with Ben Barreras from Herbal Edibles and Jonathan Sanchez, who is a cannabis grow consultant. Welcome to Medical Marijuana Radio, both of you. Ben, you're directly involved in extractions and making these products. Tell us about why this rule is just so egregious and not beneficial to the patients.
Well, I mean, at the core of it, Larry, it's liberty. You know, we have a right to choose. This is the intent of the Linden Air and Compassionate Use Act, is for us to be able to use alternative medicines as we see fit. You know, once we have our recommendation from our doctor, we should be good to go. But now the state is levying some laws upon us that are trying to restrict how we medicate. And, you know, even if we feel that this is the best way for us to medicate, they're saying, no, you need to go get another signature from a doctor, which it turns out the doctors aren't doing.
Well, why aren't they doing that?
Well, I mean, I guess the biggest reason is that there aren't enough studies done on it. Mm-hmm. There are no studies done on BHO. There are limited studies done on RSO. But what it really boils down to is high THC treatments. There aren't that many studies done out there, and a lot of doctors don't feel comfortable about putting their name next to it.
Okay, well, you know, my opinion after reading all this stuff when it was going on, you know, a year ago when they proposed this thing and then it just got pushed through, is that they had no basis for dumbing down this medicine, so to speak. It was just their opinion that dabbing Did just not have enough information about it, whether that hurts us or so forth. So they made this arbitrary 70% rule, which I don't know that any other state has, if I'm not mistaken, to protect us when they're supposed to be actually allowing medical patients to use this medicine as it's supposed to be used. And the 70%, dumbing down this medicine, the oil, especially for people that need cancer treatment, is really not helping these people. It's hindering them.
It's life-threatening.
Yes,
What it
because
is.
according to the Rick Simpson protocol that I'm aware of, you need 80+%, if not into the 90s, on THC. Is that right, Ben?
Absolutely. The higher, the better.
So in the past, when you've made Rick Simpson oil for people, was it tested, and what did it test out before they wanted us?
I've never done an RSO extraction that tested under 85%.
Well, that's pretty fantastic, actually. So now that the rule is in effect, is it being enforced?
Not to my knowledge. I've heard some rumors buzzing around the internet about it's supposed to be being enforced after this upcoming meeting on the 6th. But whether or not that's true still remains to be seen. But we have that exemption rule, which I guess allows the producers to continue to produce it. But I'm not sure if anyone's paying any credence to it, or if patients are even trying to get the letters signed, or if just doctors aren't signing them altogether.
Okay, so what? There's Jonathan. What are your opinions on what we've talked about so far?
Well, coming from a patient's perspective, because I do interact with patients as much as I possibly can, and that a lot of them don't even know this is happening to them. A lot of patients and even producers don't even know that all this is going on. And so, that's not a good thing, in that the DOH is enacting rules and regulations without informing the people that it affects. So that's definitely something that's not, like, there's tactics being used in how they implement these rules that aren't good. They're not producing good because they're not getting it out to the people. Because if all the information that we're providing for them, they're feeling it, and they're getting behind what's happening to them, but they never knew in the first place.
So Ben, as an extractor and someone who makes these products, how will you change your methods in order to keep it at 70% or below? Because we're probably going to have to do this for the next 9 months to a year. If we fighting this is going to take a long time.
Sure. Well, there are methods that you can do to pretty much dumb down your extract. It's essentially just mixing e-cigarette juice. Now, I don't advocate this. It just came out just recently that some of the flavoring in this e-cigarette juice causes what's known as popcorn lung, which is supposed to be some kind of incurable disease. So that's pretty much our only option. If you want to smoke a concentrate that's 70%, like a full melt concentrate that's not like a bubble hash, using e-cigarette juice as a cutter agent is your only option. It's not a very good one.
It doesn't sound like it doesn't sound. I'm going to interrupt, okay? Because this is I didn't know this, and this doesn't sound like it's an option at all.
No.
Okay,
Medically,
that's not even an
absolutely
option.
not.
That should be
as a medicine. No, it's not an option. But that's pretty much our only route, and they have no better recommendations for us.
So if you were, is this just this rule? Is it just for smokable concentrates, or does it leak down into some of the edibles?
Yeah, I think it's only going to apply to the smokable concentrates. I mean, because when you get into the edibles, all your other ingredients would serve as your cutting agent.
Right. So if you use, let's say, an 85% extract oil to infuse an edible, you're saying that that's going to test a lot lower because of the other ingredients that are in it?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, because you're adding sugar, flour, whatever else, eggs, butter, milk, cheese, whatever you're throwing in there would all bring down that percentage. This is being targeted specifically towards solvent-based concentrates.
Okay,
and now rosin as well, because I've seen rosin tests that test in the 80s and 90% as well.
Are you actively doing any rosin pressing as well?
There isn't a whole lot of demand for it in New Mexico quite yet. I've tried to do the dry sift and the rosin techs for the producers, and they just say, no, that's okay. We just want the shatter.
Yeah. All right, so something has to be done. This, as I said to both of you before we got started on this, my recollection is that I read a response from the Department of Health sometime over the last year, and I'm trying to find it, that said that their reasoning was, to cap this at 70%, that there was not enough data around on how dabbing is affecting people. So in order for them to protect us, they are limiting the amount of THC to 70% because of that, which is really has nothing to do with medical cannabis.
Right.
It sounds more like a recreational thing. They don't want us to get too high, but this is not about getting high. If getting high is a side effect of somebody taking a high THC extract to kill cancer cells, well, you know what? Let them get high. These people are going to die without this. So,
Well,
go
ahead, Jonathan.
Go ahead, John. Jump in, Jonathan.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like, okay, they're putting a cap on it so people can't smoke it, yet it's still affecting the cancer patients more so in that fact that because they can't take their high test oils, and because they're not smoking it, they're taking it in pills, they're taking it orally, because that is how you're going to take that medicine most effectively, and they're not. So the fact that it's including that whole spectrum of extracts is not okay, because it's not, because it is including taking it orally. Because cancer patients, we have to understand that they're not dabbing.
Right, they're not smoking.
Taking it as a smokable form.
So Ben, then let me ask you this then. Has there been conversations with the people at the Department of Health about allowing Rick Simpson oil to be, with the high THC? Because
you could dab Rick Simpson's oil too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's the dabbing is what they really are just afraid of for some reason. But okay.
I mean, it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
No. The cat's out of the bag. The people know about it. They're going to continue to do it.
Well, high THC.
Are we going to criminalize it, or are we going to, make it part of the program and regulate it properly?
Right. Well,
it's not to say that that dabbing doesn't come without its risks.
Yeah.
Okay, if you've got some lung problems, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
If you're a beginning smoker, I wouldn't recommend it. But these small nuances aren't enough to just completely pull this medicine off of the market. It's very important for a lot of people, and it's a shame really, because it's our right to choose what we want to do with our bodies.
And we should be able to use the best medicine that is available from this plant. This is a medical cannabis program using medical cannabis, and they shouldn't be dumbing down this medicine. And what you said, I think, Ben, is very, very important. It's about safe access to this medicine, okay?
Right.
We don't want people going onto the streets to start buying shatter that is going to be made in somebody's house without the precautions that you go through, and people like yourself. It makes it more dangerous. They're causing. Go ahead.
For every patient that we turn away, okay, there's a 70% cap. We can't sell you any BHO. Have a nice day. What does that patient turn around and do? They turn around and go talk to their homies, their buddies on the black market, and get their extract that way. Okay? Not only is that counterintuitive to the intent of the program, it also adds an element of danger into the community.
Right. And, of course, that's not tested either.
What do you mean?
The stuff on the street's not going to be tested for contaminants, and if everything's been purged.
Not just how it's made, Larry. I've seen some people on Facebook, talking about, oh, hey, I just got my glass tube in my Power 5. Is this heating element going to work for me? And it's sitting in their kitchen. Like these people are extracting indoors with no kind of ventilation.
Right.
For every patient that gets sent away and denied their medicine, they're sending another bomb out into the community.
Well, this is something that we need to speak about on Wednesday, January 6th, at the Department of Health. Is that at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m.? Do you guys know?
I think it's 10.
10 a.m. But check everybody and make sure. And we need people to get down there. Now, Ben, you were involved over the last couple of weeks with a group of people putting together a letter. Can you tell us about that and where people can, what it is about and where people can get that?
Yeah, you can access the copies of the letter on the Patients Alliance Facebook group and possibly their website. You can also get copies of the letter at your local producer's office. We've had our agents out at all the different producers distributing the letter, and they've got it there on the counter for you guys to sign.
All right, tell us what the letter is about.
The letter is basically speaking to the effect that this rule change goes against the intent of the Linen and Compassionate Use Act and is completely capricious, completely arbitrary. It's essentially letting the department know that, yes, we know that there is an exemption clause, and no, we cannot get a doctor to sign for us. So it also sends the message that their methodology for allowing us access to this medicine is faulty in itself.
So what do you think is going to happen? What would you like to see happen Wednesday? We need bodies down there to talk to the advisory board. Is there actually, do you know if there's an advisory board that's going to be there?
I don't know if the advisory board is going to be there. I think it's just the
Department
lawyers.
of Health?
Right, the department and their lawyers, and then probably the mediator.
Is there still a mediator in regard to this?
Last rules hearing, yeah, there was a mediator.
Yeah, the last two was a mediator, but
right.
Not sure whether I'm not sure one was called in for this yet, to be honest with you. But we need people to come down there and to talk about how it would affect you as a patient to not get the medicine that is strong enough for you. Because, my opinion is that what the outcome, besides some of the other terrible outcomes that we just talked about, is that people are going to have to spend more money to ingest more of this medicine because it's not as strong as it should be. For instance, someone that's using wax or shatter for pain and they're doing dabs or they're smoking in a pen, they're going to have to smoke, probably 30 or 40% more, and that's going to cost them more. So what's going to happen is it's costing them more money, and it's very expensive as it is now. Plus, the producers are going to sell more.
Yeah, and that's what as a manufacturer, Larry, I should be ecstatic about this rule. I should be like, yay, I get to sell the same product twice. But I'm not, because I believe in this medicine. I've seen it work in all aspects of my life, my loved ones' lives, and it's life-changing. It can really change the life of a patient who really needs this medicine. And I like I said, I should be, ecstatic about this, but I'm not. The patients need this more than I need to make more money off of this, more than the producers need to make more money off of this. And that's what it really boils down to, is these guys tend to make a lot more money from, selling the same product twice over than getting a quality product to their patient. I mean, I think New Mexico has enough problems with quality without adding litigation to the fact to make sure that there aren't any quality extracts on the market.
So what are you seeing currently? Are LNPPs using just trim, or are they growing enough now to where they can actually use bud, and your extractions are a lot bigger at this point in time? How's it evolved over the last few years?
Generally, it's still trim. Running bud for a business will never be profitable. You know, you're always going to lose if you extract your buds. You know, so from a business aspect, you know, it's probably not the best route to go. You know, if you're running your own cancer treatments for RSO, it's got to be bud.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Full plant.
it's not about, you know, the bottom line anymore. It's about attempting to save someone's life. So I guess the more compassionate producers understand that, the more business-minded ones probably don't care.
Mm-hmm. Are there any shortages going on right now? Or are you constantly, you know, extracting from the LMPPs, or is there times when they don't even have any trim available?
Yeah, well, I mean, it all depends, really. I mean, there's the producers that bumped up to 450, and their numbers have gone way up. So my numbers have gone way up. But then there's other producers who did not bump up to the 450, and you know, there's definitely shortages there. Absolutely.
And so, tell me, if somebody needs to get on the Rick Simpson protocol, which, you know, is near and dear to me because this is something that is helping so many people beat a devastating disease like cancer. How does that come to you? And someone says, you know, I need 60 grams of Rick Simpson oil.
Okay. Well, you know, generally I don't run Rick Simpson's oil just to keep it on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, what I do is, you know, we'll consult with a patient who has a cancer diagnosis, and we will link them up with our different clients to see which one of them will actually come off of a pound for them.
So people are contacting you, like patients, and saying,
"Oh yeah, I get calls all the time. It's really heartbreaking." You know,
and so you have to refer them back to an LMPP because they're the ones.
Correct, because I don't actually own any of the material.
Right.
You know, it's not mine. I simply sell a service.
With that being said, do you think that there should be a model down the line for manufacturers to be able to have their own grow in order to have more of a control over what the medicine is that they're extracting from? Because there's a lot of problems going on in Oregon and in Colorado in regards to pesticides and extractions coming up contaminated. So do you think that should be a model here?
Well, yeah. I mean, in Colorado, they actually allow the manufacturers a 500 plant count limit. So it just enables them to do business at their pace instead of waiting for a producer to come through for them. You know, they can just make the material and take it to the shop and sell it as is. As far as pesticides go, you know, I'm all for pesticide testing. You know, we are getting a lot of information from out of state coming in about the importance of pesticide testing, and, you know, recall after recall after recall. So I think it's better to get ahead of it. You know, jump out in front of this thing, and it's really going to be up to the labs as well. You know, I've already reached out to Kathleen at Scepter Labs, and she said that she would see what she can do about getting some pesticide testing here in New Mexico.
Right. Does that involve a different kind of equipment or just
No,
different
she
techniques?
says she's got all the same equipment. I think it's just different reagents.
But we also have to. I mean, it'd be great if she, you know, and the other testing labs could test for pesticides.
Sure.
But I don't think that the LNPPs want to pay for it until they're forced to, which is really a whole nother situation.
Yeah.
Jonathan, as a consultant grower, what should LNPPs who are growing cannabis, what should they be using, you know, to combat the problems that pesticides are used for?
Well, I mean, where it all starts from how healthy their plants are. That is where it all stems from. Any time the cannabis plant is naturally pest resistant and naturally mold resistant. They grow in very, very humid climates and very dry and harsh climates. So they're naturally like that. A lot of the more the more finicky strains that we have out there, they will have a little bit of an issue. But it really stems to plant health and then from there, using more natural things like neem oils, and really paying attention to when you're applying these things. I know Verde's Foundation, they use a fogger unit and a cedar oil extract to make sure that they're choking out any pests that are in their space. So that's really good. But I prefer the idea of not using any chemical or anything whatsoever. Just make sure that your policies and how you'll go about keeping your place clean, make sure all those are in place. For instance, I know producers they don't even change their clothes before they walk into their grow space.
Yeah.
Definitely wearing garden clothes that you only use in your garden space. And then making sure that you're changing your shoes or putting booties on, putting hats on, making sure that any type of contaminants that are going to be going into your space are mitigated before they enter that space.
And also,
and then you're
go ahead. I was just going to jump in there and say also it's really important, obviously, the temperature of your room, the humidity. Go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead and expound on that.
Yeah, definitely. Temperatures of the room, maintaining that 75 to 80 degrees. Your humidities at certain periods. Those are all basic knowledge. Those are all things that as producers they should be doing anyways. The basic type of things that maintaining humidities and having those controls in place. That should be in place with these producers anyways, because that's basic things.
You would think that all of that you just mentioned should be part of a business plan that these producers and the new producers would have had in their business plan in order to even get a license.
Exactly.
Right.
That's a DOH's knowledge too. Because a questionnaire. I've seen a form that the DOH provides the person who goes and checks these gardens and makes sure and does the site check on them.
And
plant
counts. Is that a plan?
Yeah. It was one form with a few questions on it. It's not even. It's ridiculous what the site checks even involve. And if I would talk to a patient, my initial consultation is an extensive questioning. What exactly is going on, what problem, going deep into what they're doing with their garden, from what's going into what's coming out.
Okay.
And they are not doing that with the DOH in their site check.
Well, the problem is that they don't have an actual cannabis professional at DOH. They're just bureaucrats and administrators.
Exactly.
Right. Political bureaucrats, administrators, they're not knowledgeable about what the job is that they're really supposed to do. Of course,
Right.
We've been talking about that for a bunch of years now. But all right, so to wrap things up, okay, people of New Mexico, patients, go down to your local dispensary. There's some forms there, that there's a questionnaire as well. In this questionnaire, Ben, it's asking questions about how people are using concentrates and so forth.
Yeah, we do have a survey that we're formulating now, but it's not something where we've released to the public yet. We want to keep the focus on the letter.
Okay,
before the meeting.
So the letter. So tell me about the letter itself. Is what we need people to come down and get and send in. Is there a way to email to the DOH this concern as well, or is it just hard
yeah,
copy?
I mean, you can send your letter directly to the DOH, or you can mail it to them, or you can get it back to the producer, and one of our people will go and pick it up before the meeting. We'd like to get as many in our hand as possible, so we can say we have X amount of signatures, X amount of letters from patients who do not agree with this 70% cap, who have been unable to access their medicine, and how this 70% cap is in direct conflict with linen air and compassionate use. I think that will have the most dramatic effect. We need to get their attention because, we're both veterans at talking at these advisory board meetings. We get up there at the podium and we do our spiel, and they don't listen.
Yeah, that's the problem. The advisory board doctors generally listen, and they're compassionate, and they generally are on our side as patients for what we ask them to do. They make great recommendations to the Department of Health and the Secretary, and they're always turned down. And I say always. They were nice enough to let Parkinson's and Huntington's on, a year or so ago, but they've turned down stuff that traumatic brain. When I say they turned down, the medical board, has turned down. What did they turn down? They turned down ADD, even though there was a lot of science there for that. So we need to produce that again. But they've turned down traumatic brain injury, which has had lots and lots of good data on. So it's really the Department of Health, it's the Secretary, Retta Ward, who has just blanketly turns down everything, even at the advice of their doctor. She's not a doctor, yet she does not take the advice of the advisory board. So people listening, there's only a couple days. It's Wednesday at the Department of Health up here in Santa Fe. We need you to come down there and talk about your experience, about why you need the high percentage THC in your concentrates and how that will affect you. And that's going to be, I think, at 9 or 10 a.m. on Wednesday. So, Jonathan, any closing words for you?
I just you hit the nail on the head, because for me that's the most important thing right now, is just getting this information and getting patients to come and share their stories, so that this and for the future, so that something like this can be addressed, and maybe we can come to the DOH with a professional that can help them make sure that their policies that they're producing are right for them and right for the patients, because I don't feel like we're trying to step on their toes, and personally I don't feel like they're trying to step on ours. They just don't know any better.
Absolutely. Jonathan, do you have a website or an email that people can get in touch with you if they like?
Most definitely. EnchantedConsulting.com is always a place to get me. EnchantedConsulting@gmail.com is my email, and I really love working with all kinds of patients. What we do is we design, install, and help maintain their garden space. So I love working with patients with disabilities, and gardening should be fun. So we really need I can design a space for them that they can actually use without causing them pain. So that's one of my biggest things.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. And Ben, you're at Herbal Edibles. You do lots of great work for many of the dispensaries here, and I appreciate that. Your stuff looks good, it tastes good, and it's very effective. And that's Herbal Edibles in Albuquerque. I thank you both for the hard work that you've been doing on this issue and other issues, and let's hope that we can get the DOH to turn this nonsensical rule around. So everybody needs to get involved and come down on Wednesday. And we'll be right back after this. Thanks a lot, guys.
Everybody can't be the talk of the town. Everybody can't live a life of plenty. Everybody's ready to get on down, because we all together again. Because we're all together again. Because we're all together again. Because we're all together again. Everybody can't have a life for Riley. Everybody can't be a movie star. Everybody can't get a twerk from Miley. Everybody here'd rather hit the bar because we're all together again. 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 Everybody. 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 Clap your hands! Clap your hands! Clap your hands! Everybody! Everybody don't need a mini mansion. Everybody don't want an eagle yacht. Everybody don't need the latest fashion. Everybody needs what we already got. Because we're all together again. Because we're all together again. Because we're all together again. Because we're all together again.
The medical marijuana. The medical marijuana. Radio show.
Well, everybody's going to be down at the DOH on Wednesday morning to fight for our rights that we shouldn't have to fight for, that should be given to us by the Linen Air and Compassionate Act. If you're in another state, just realize that you're looking at what could happen to you in your state. So watch and learn. I want to thank my two radio mentors, both with the initials HS. Thank you for your inspiration. And thank John and Jonathan and Ben for being on the show and explaining all that stuff to us. If you'd like to write this program, write us at info@mmjradio.com. info@mmjradio.com. If you want to listen to some old shows, we've been doing them for 6 complete seasons. This is season 7. Go to mmjradio.com. My YouTube channel is LSLove88. My SoundCloud is MMJ Radio. My Spreaker is MMJ Radio. CannabisTube.net. Also, Time for Hemp. Don't forget Time for Hemp on iHeartRadio.com. On Now TV, channel 937. Also heard on 420radio.org and the Pothead Universe Radio every Sunday morning.
Shalom.